Why did he do that? Why would anyone even think that something like that would work? This is such a funny yet strange moment because Obi-Wan is normally thought to be very smart and tactical in battle. So why would he, a flesh and blood human, attempt to kick General Grievous, a cyborg that is mostly metal? This is a moment that is often side-eyed and made fun of because of just how ridiculous it is. I mean, how could Obi-Wan overestimate his own strength like that? It's not like there's any lore to justify this line of thinking. Is there? Well, after seeing this question pop up so many times, I decided to look into it and found some interesting information. So follow me down this very odd rabbit hole so I can not only explain why Obi-Wan would attempt this kick, but also why it failed despite him thinking it would work. But before we get started, do me a favor and force push that subscribe button. We're trying to grow this order of silly, fun-loving, lore-diving rogue Jedi, so if you love deep dives, spicy lore talk, and don't mind the stress of trying to figure out the canon, allow the Force to guide your hand, for it is the will of the algorithm. Now let's get right into the main question. Are Jedi strong enough to punch through steel? And it turns out that yes, they are. They achieve this by using the Force to amplify their physical abilities. Normally this is used to fortify their defenses to make themselves more durable. This is why we see Jedi and Sith get slammed around and just walk it off despite all of them being mortal beings. The very first time we see this in action is actually in Return of the Jedi, when Luke kicks one of Jabba's men, a moment clarified by Mark Hamill himself. And look, we all know that this was just a bad camera angle during the choreography, but keep in mind that stuff like this is a key element to lore building in Star Wars.
Good guys are green and blue, bad guys are red. That's just the way it works.
There's no purple left?
You might get purple.
And it's not just once where Luke uses a Force kick. Later in the early moments against Vader, Luke manages to land a kick that sends Vader flying down the stairs. Literally, Vader does not hit a single stair on his way down, and is unable to land on his feet when he hits the bottom. Now, when you consider both Vader's physical defenses, extra weight due to being mostly machine, and strength in the Force, the only way that this or any kick would send him flying like that is if it had the power of the Force behind it. And it's not just Luke that shows off this ability, because at the same time when this kick happens, Leia actually taps into the same ability without realizing it when she takes down Jabba. In truth, the size difference should have worked against her. Big old Jabba over here should have been able to fling her around with ease. However, this moment is explained in the Return of the Jedi novelization. With strength beyond her own strength, she pulled. He bucked with his huge torso, nearly breaking her fingers, nearly yanking her arms from their sockets. He could get no leverage. His bulk was too unwieldy, but just his sheer mass alone was enough to break any mere physical restraint. Yet Leia's hold was not merely physical. She closed her eyes, closed out the pain in her hands, focused all of her life force, and all it was able to channel, into squeezing the breath from the horrid creature. She pulled. She sweated. She visualized the chain digging millimeter by millimeter deeper into Jabba's windpipe, as Jabba wildly thrashed, frantically twisted from the least expected of foes. With one last gasping effort, Jabba tensed every muscle and lurched forward. His reptilian eyes began to bulge from their sockets as the chains tightened. His oily tongue flopped from his mouth. His thick tail twitched in spasms of effort, until finally he lay still, dead weight. So basically, Leia put everything she had into it and as a result, tapped into the Force despite having no training or prior knowledge that she was Force sensitive. Vader would be so proud if he knew the details. So now that we've established that it is a thing, how does it work? It is similar to focusing and concentrating Force energy into your body to fortify your defenses. However, you take one extra step to make it offensive by focusing most of that energy into the part of your body that you're going to strike with. Once you have generated the necessary amount of power, you can execute your attack in one of three ways. One, as a short to mid-ranged attack like Luke's original kick, which does not have the most power behind it, but is good for catching your opponent off guard when they think they're at a safe distance. Two, as a physical strike for maximum damage, seen here with Mace Windu tearing through an army of battle droids without his lightsaber. And three, by using a grapple or stranglehold of some type to immobilize, or in Leia's case, completely crush a vital area. This shines a new light on the Kenobi vs. Grievous fight because now we know that Kenobi had a legitimate reason for attempting this move. While Kenobi's raw power in the Force was not as high as Mace Windu's, he was still very close, hence one of the reasons he made it into the Council. So this should be something that's within his abilities, especially when we take Kenobi's on-screen displays of strength and durability into account. Just check out this scene from an earlier fight with Kenobi and Grievous. Grievous has Kenobi pinned down with all 4 arms, yet Kenobi proves strong enough to push him off. Or this scene where Maul kicks Kenobi in the face with his new metal leg, not only sending him flying backwards, but up, and while that had to have hurt, Kenobi tanked the attack and kept fighting, and if he can tank a hit like that, he can certainly dish it out. So now we know that Kenobi was using a force kick to try to break Grievous' shins, which also turns out to be one of Kenobi's go-to moves when fighting a physically stronger opponent. The only question now is, why didn't it work? If Kenobi can break steel, then why couldn't he break Grievous? Well, to answer that, we have to look at the general himself. You see, just like in the real world, not all metals are created equally, and even the fantasy materials in the Star Wars universe have various levels of durability. With that being said, it should come as no surprise that Grievous' cybernetic skeleton is far stronger than that of the other droids. You see, all the droids in the Separatist army were made with Durasteel and other metals that were definitely tough, but nothing that a Jedi Master couldn't handle. However, General Grievous was a little different. While his body was made from most of the same materials as the droids, the exoskeleton of his armor was made from something called duranium, a metal that is far stronger than anything the droids were made with. Duranium is said to be stronger than titanium, yet less resilient than impervium, putting it around the upper mid-tier of Star Wars materials. It's even semi-resistant to lightsaber strikes, being able to handle an impressive number of strikes before it starts to break down. This is one of the reasons why Grievous was such an effective Jedi killer, yet at the same time always ran away when he was at any disadvantage, because he could tank a few strikes, but he knew that he had a limit to how many he could handle. Plus, only his exoskeleton was made of duranium. His joints and other internal parts were made of more flexible yet weaker materials, because while duranium is stronger, it's not very flexible, making it extremely difficult to make complex parts with, which is why Obi-Wan was able to disarm him at the wrist despite the duranium protecting him. But with that being said, being able to tank just one lightsaber strike is impressive enough. And it's not just lightsabers. Duranium is also strong enough to protect Grievous from some force attacks. When Mace uses the force to crush Grievous' chest, it leaves him injured and coughing, but it does not kill him. And not for lack of trying either. Just look at Windu's face here. There is no question that Windu was trying to send Grievous to the cosmic force. But while he was strong enough to completely shatter Durasteel, he was not strong enough to do the same to Duranium. However, he did manage to compress it a bit. So because of that, Grievous survived, but with injuries. So it's no wonder why Obi-Wan's attack failed. I mean, it was a no-duck kind of moment even before the added lore, but now with this context we at least know why he tried. Because normally, it would work. However, he was not aware of the difference between Grievous and the other droids, so his attack ended up backfiring. Maybe he should have picked up on that when he was trying to pry Grievous' chest open. I mean, while it did open him up for the money shot, the strain of the attempt should have told him what not to do next. But Kenobi just had to find out the hard way. But anyway, that's it for today's video. If you like this explainer and want more Star Wars deep dives, spicy takes, and breakdowns of both serious and silly topics, make sure to force push that subscribe button. Got a Star Wars question that's been eating away at you? Drop it in the comments and I just might make it into a video. And if you really want to support the Rogue Jedi Order, check out our Patreon. Help us build this new Order of Jedi. So until next time, may the Force be with you.